We're going to take a look at assembling our floor framing. To save time, I already have everything cut out, everything cut down to size, marked out, laid out, and ready to go. Basically, we need to have a joist header, which is going to measure 10 inches and in length. And then we're going to need 9 floor joists that are going to be 10 inches minus the thickness of the joist header. Outside of the joist header to the end of my floor joist, it should be 10 inches. Each of my joists are going to be spaced out at 1.5 inches on center, meaning the joist, the middle of that joist is going to be on that line. So we've taken the tape measure and put a mark every 1.5 inches. We're going to use the speed square to draw a straight line and then put a line on the top as well. That will help when putting it all together. Use a cordless drill with a small nail put in it, and that is going to act as the drill bit for drilling our pilot hole. That's going to make driving the nails a lot easier. We're just going to take the tiny little 5/8 inch brad nails and put them into those pilot holes that I've already started. You can put all of them in one shot, or you can put them in as you go. Does not really matter. When we go to install the joist, we are going to, again, take the center of that joist, roughly. It's not going to get 100% perfect. And put the center of that joist on our line. So it might be beneficial to stand the floor joist upright and then lay the joist header on top of that. That's just going to make it a lot easier because you're having something solid when you're trying to nail that together. If you try to nail while it's laying flat, you really have to hang on to that joist. Otherwise, when you hit it, it's just going to constantly move. Here we have all of our floor joists nailed on to the joist header. You will notice when we look at the spacing in between each of them, the spacing looks very consistent until we get to the end where it's a lot smaller. We will want to keep it like that, and we'll see why in just a minute. Next thing we need to do is add the floor sheeting. I'm not at this point concerned if my joists aren't perfectly straight or square. By putting the sheeting on, that's going to allow me to get everything where it needs to be. On my piece of sheathing, I'm going to put a mark every 1.5 inches and then pre-drill a hole. That's going to help me with getting the whole thing lined up. It is important that I start the sheeting at the end where I started my measurement, so that side that has the smaller gap, we do not want to start our measurement there. So we're going to nail that sheeting down. First going to get it attached to the edge of the joist header, making sure that this corner is aligned with the edge, and we're making sure that the sheet breaks on a joist, meaning that that seam is supported by a floor joist. Now that I have my sheeting nailed to the edge of the joist header, now I can start nailing it down to each of the joists. That might require me to have to flex the joist one way or another to get it lined up with my 1.5 inch marks that I previously made. So now by taking the time to move each joist so that the center of the joist is on the reference line I made, that's going to help ensure proper joist placement. Now we're just going to continue on getting that filled in. A common mistake students are going to make is get this piece of sheeting and come back here and basically just trace where that outside joist is at. But if I look at that, that's clearly leaning over. We don't want to follow that line. We want that to end up being straight. So we're going to measure what's left from the edge of my sheeting to the edge of my joist header. In this case, it is 4 inches. So then we're going to take and cut this piece off at 4 inches and just repeat that process. We're going to want to put my mark at 1.5 inches. We just laid it down here and just put a little reference mark. That could help out. We don't need to get carried away with the nails. Basically 1 nail in each joist and then a few nails on the joist header just to hold that in place. We don't need to put 4 or 5 nails in each joist. I took the cut edge and had that butted up here. So if we can see, it's got a little bit of a gap. In the scheme of life, it doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal. But we want to take the time and do it the best we can. So just by flipping that over, having the 2 good cut edges, it closes up a lot tighter. For the next row, I don't want a full sheet because I want my seams to be staggered. So I'm going to measure from this edge to one of the other joists. It doesn't matter if we go like at the halfway point or the next joist over. In this case, I just went the next one over, and then it's all going to fit in like so. Once again, kind of be careful to make sure that the joints between each of those are closed in as tight as we can. And on each sheet, now I want to do my 1.5 inch markings just so that I can maintain joist spacing all the way across.